So this is Ruby's first birthday. So here's the roll up of all the costs and the savings for having it driving the Ruby for the first year. The total maintenance for the first year was $2,785.82. That consisted of the 12,000 and 24,000 mile maintenance plus a set of tires. The electricity cost was $843.50. That's what we actually paid. That's a 12,050 kilowatt hours at 7 cents a kilowatt hour. The insurance for the entire year for Ruby was $1,064. For non-Ruby or non-Ruby were $917. So the total expenses to drive Ruby for the first year was $5,610.32. Now, of course, obviously, that doesn't count the actual purchase price of Ruby. So the cost per mile worked out to be 21 cents. We drove a total of 26,855 miles in the first year. The electricity cost for that for each of those miles was approximately 3 cents per mile. Had we had to buy gas for 26,855 miles, and that gas cost $2.60 a gallon, and the vehicle got 25 miles per gallon, we would have spent $2,792.92 on gasoline. That gas would have cost the equivalent of 10 cents per mile. So the difference between the $2,792 and the $917 that we actually had to spend is a savings to us for driving Ruby that and not having to buy gas of 1,008 cents.
What you're looking at here is an all trips data map produced by the TeslaFI product that we use to keep track of all of the data that Ruby collects. There are several interesting things to note here. First is that we did not leave the state of North Carolina over the last year. North Carolina is a really large state, and you can travel hundreds of miles without traveling into another state. So we were able to concentrate our driving inside of the state of North Carolina. You'll notice the darker blue area where there's a high concentration of lines, and that's Fuquay, Cary, Raleigh, Durham area where we are doing the bulk of our traveling. As you travel, this map gets darker in the areas where you spent the most time. So that's driving around town, and that's driving back and forth to the boys' school. But you can also see here that we made quite a few trips away from our local cities this past year as well. We were over to Burlington, North Carolina, and the supercharger over there at near Elon College to meet the Model 3 road trip. We traveled to Asheboro, North Carolina, to the zoo. Looks like maybe twice. We recently made the trip down to Charlotte and back, where we took one route and sort of a northerly route there and then a southerly route back, kind of making a circle. We were down to the Special Forces Museum in Fayetteville a couple of times and went to see Christmas lights down near Elizabethtown, a little farther south of Fayetteville. We traveled down to Wilmington or the beach. Dawn and I did to have dinner and a relaxing day. But we were out to Wilson, North Carolina, a couple of times to the Whirligig Park. And then there were two trips missing because we did not start TeslaFI until 7/23/17. We made two trips prior to that. One was north of Rocky Mount to the Sylvan Heights Waterfowl Park, in which case I stopped at the Rocky Mount Supercharger on the way home. And the other was down to the coast to New Bern, North Carolina, to visit Tryon Palace. And we stopped at the Warsaw, North Carolina Supercharger on the way home from that trip. So it's pretty interesting to look back over the last year and see just where we traveled. TeslaFi also produced this charge count at location table here, summarizing the locations where we did our charging over the last year. As you can see, almost the entirety of our charging was done at home, 312 charges at our house. But we did charge at several other superchargers and the Tesla Service Center. We were at the Raleigh Supercharger 6 times over the last year charging. Tesla had us plugged in when we were up there 4 different times. That doesn't necessarily mean 4 different days, but 4 different times. We were at the Fayetteville Supercharger. Don and I were there twice, and we know one of the times we were there, we moved stalls. So that bumped up the charging count by 1 up to 3. We were over at Burlington, as we said, for the Model 3 road trip, and we moved stalls over there too. So we've actually only been to that supercharger once, but it shows a count of 2. We did charge at just recently for the first time at the Charlotte Supercharger, and we did charge 1 time on our trip down to Wilmington. The times that we were at the Warsaw Supercharger and the time we were at the Rocky Mount Supercharger, again, are not on this charge count at location table because we had not started using TeslaFi yet.
Now, one of the things that you could tell by looking at the supercharger totals chart is, besides the number of times that we visited each supercharger, again with North Hills being the most popular one, is it totals up the total amount of energy that we added at a supercharger was 510 kilowatt hours. The 510 kilowatt hours is compared to the 12 megawatt hours that we charge at home. Shows you that we're really doing the bulk of our energy we're paying for it on our home electricity bill. Also, we do get free supercharging, but Tesla includes with the Model S and X, if you do not opt to use a referral code, I believe it's 400 kilowatt hours of charging. So you could see 400 kilowatt hours would basically, for us last year, would probably been enough. I mean, we actually used 510, but a couple of those were, we did it because it was there. It was convenient. We were checking out the supercharger. But in actuality, we probably could have got by with just the 400 kilowatt hours that Tesla provides every year. TeslaFi also keeps track of how many charges into what state of charge you charge to. As you can see here, it said that we charged to 100% 1 time. We've charged to 94% 1 time, and then 90% 10 times. As you can see, the bulk of our charging has been to 80%, and we charged to 80% 245 times. The couple times that are less than 80% are very likely the times that we chose to not. Our charger cuts off at 6 o'clock in the morning, so that we didn't get into peak. So when it was stopped at 77 or 78%, it was probably very close, and basically shut off. I believe the 5 charges at 79% was before I learned how to make it go in increments of 10. We would slide it over with our finger, and you could get single digit off. So we were shooting for 80%, but it was probably 81% or 79%. But we've now used the detent, so we can go very precisely to 80% now.
From my perspective, we haven't lost any battery range in the last year. When I go out in the morning and Ruby's charged to 80%, she still says I can go 237 miles, and that's what she's been saying. But Don did pull a little more detail on the battery.
Right. TeslaFi collects all the charge information, and basically this is probably not the most scientific way to measure your battery degradation or range loss. This is basically a sort of a statistical look at your battery degradation. Depends on how you want to measure it. If you want to take the highest amount of range that the car ever charged to and the lowest amount of range that it charged to. Uh, that difference in those two ranges was 2.14 miles, or 0.73% difference. But those two high ranges, uh, I I don't really know when they were. I guess when we charged up to 100% one time, I have recollected that we've done it twice. So that's what that's showing. A little confusion. I think the high range versus the current range is probably a better representation. In other words, at one time, we charged up to 296.68 miles. And right now, it projects that our current range is 295.7. So we've lost 0.98 miles, or 0.33%, which is what Marianne was trying to say, is that you really cannot tell. We've done it a year now. We've done 26,855 miles. So, I mean, we've done enough miles. We charged it probably close to 300 times now. And if you look at the starting range versus the current range, as you can see, again, it's down to the fractional percent. As I said, there's probably more scientific ways to measure it, but TeslaFi does try to help you understand your battery degradation.
In the last year, Ruby has received 19 software updates. So even though I would like to cry and tell you that we're waiting sometimes what seems like an eternity for the next new update to come out, we are actually getting on average more than one a month. This is a real value add for Tesla because the car is always getting continuous improvement. They're always adding new function or enhancing existing function. And this chart clearly shows just how often the car is being updated.
Hey, pretty girl.
Hey, Johnny.
Hey, Mom.
So, today's 365. Happy birthday, Ruby.
Yeah, happy birthday, Ruby. Good girl. Good girl.
We're in the car for a very, I think, Ruby birthday appropriate trip. We are headed up to Research Triangle Park, up to RTP for an update on the Triangle market for VW Electrify America. As you might remember, Dawn has a few opinions about the Electrify America settlement, I guess, and
right.
the rolling out of these the charging network that they're doing. So there happens to be an update up in RTP today, and we're headed to listen to what they have to say.
Right, and also there was a hint that the Department of Environmental Quality might present something also, but I don't think they're going to be able to, because I don't think anything's been approved by the legislature. And there's a battle between the governor, the Department of Environmental Quality, and the state legislature of who gets to decide how the money gets spent. The mitigation fund, which is different than the Electrify America, but it's still, you know, I think North Carolina is right at $90 million. Volkswagen is going to give the state of North Carolina right at $90 million. And inside of our state, politics is driving, even though the settlement was very specific on what it could be used for, they're still fighting over the money.
A view of the landfill in Holly Springs, the first thing you see when you get on the west-south loop of I-540 here in Holly Springs. Yep, Dawn is on the toll road this morning, just to make sure we get up there when we're supposed to. Technically, it is still the end of Thursday morning rush hour traffic for RTP. I'm just cruising along over here in autopilot.
Yep. Nice smooth road, nice wide lanes. Again, this is a one of the 10 roadways in the country that's designated as a testing ground by the National Transportation
Safety Board, or
yeah, safety,
something?
Yeah. This
as an autonomous corridor.
Right, this is an autonomous corridor, that is correct. So possibly, who knows, when Elon goes forth and comes up with level 4, and they typically scope check the boundaries on where you can do level 4. This could be one of the very first roadways that gets approved for level 4.
So we had to get off our nice cush toll road, and now we're just on I-40 going west, and it is still rush hour. I was admiring these nice trees over here. Wow. Just in honor of Ruby's birthday. With your approval, Johnny. So there was an official from Electrify America at this business meeting today. His name was Michael Tubman. He was very knowledgeable about all of the aspects and components of Electrify America from a marketing perspective, but also very technical in his answers. His presentation was really informative. He is looking for businesses and multifamily dwellings that are interested in putting in level 2 charging. Not just in North Carolina, but around the country. It sounds to me like they have very much figured out where they're putting in the DC fast charger network, but they're still working on how to make an impact for the segment for level 2 charging. So it's Michael.Tubman at electrifyamerica.com. Yeah, so if you had any input, they are still looking for that.
Okay.
He did ask me to stop taking pictures of his slides, but said all of the slides were out there, so I was a little confused. They're either proprietary or not. Sounds like not, that they have to be very open about all of their decision making in this because it is this settlement. It is, I guess, public sort of right to know here. Yeah. They put up a map of what their Electrify America DC fast charging network is going to look like, and said that they plan to get there by summer of 2019, I think.
Yeah.
And it looked eerily similar to the Tesla supercharger network. I would say not as full, because Tesla's been working on it for several years now and keeps adding and doubling it in size, but still fairly similar. It would be interesting, I thought, to have an overlay of the two where the dots are different colors and we could see exactly where the superchargers were or not. I noticed that one of the areas that they have committed to adding a DC fast charger in the Raleigh area is at the intersection of I-40, the 440 belt line, and US 1, and anyone in the area will know that that is Cary Crossroads. So I do believe, my understanding of the map, that there's going to be a fast charger in the Cary Crossroads area. I know that several of the Tesla owners in the area had hoped that they would put the quote-unquote Raleigh supercharger in at Cary Crossroads, and they chose the North Hills Target location. So I don't know exactly where. Maybe we could go look and see exactly what that site is, but I thought that that was interesting. Let me see what else I have on my notes here. So when for workplace charging, it's a 10-year, it's fully funded. So they'll install it, they will pay to maintain it, they pay for the both the infrastructure and the actual electrician installation, and are responsible for keeping it running for 10 years. He said it's up to the businesses whether or not they choose to charge the users. And there are some other partners, SEMA, he mentioned, that are involved in the actual, I guess, end operations of that. But I thought one of the things he was trying to say, you know, Tesla has a workplace business program as far as helping put in level 2 chargers, and it's not 100% funded. It's really helpful. I thought maybe he was making a compare and contrast there a little bit. Not that it matters, but I found that to be interesting. So after the meeting, I asked him about the power of their DC fast chargers, because they have 350 kilowatt chargers, they have 150, and then they have some 50. And he was very clear that in a lot of the locations they're putting in more of the 150 or 350 than the lower chargers. And he was also very clear that there would be 2 to 10. It's not just that you're going to have like one charging station and a line, that they really are going to put, like a supercharger, they're really going to put in a number of them. But after the meeting, I asked him, so today what car can charge at that would use these DC fast chargers can actually charge at 350 kilowatt hours? And he said none, which I knew the answer to that question before I asked him. He said, well, Porsche Mission E, when it comes out, which is another, will be viewed as another high-end luxury electric vehicle, right? So it doesn't help. My point is, it doesn't help the Leaf owners, the Bolt owners, and some of the other more family affordable electric cars out there, because they can't utilize that charging anyway. So but I thought that that was interesting. He really got my attention when he said that all of the, not all, but the majority of the DC fast charging stations were going to be battery ready. So in other words, they are going to put in batteries at the station so that they can pull the electricity off the grid at non-peak times, and then, you know, when folks are charging at peak time, they'll pull the electricity off of the battery. I thought that was interesting. I wonder who's going to supply the batteries. You had something to add to that?
Right. Well, he said they're battery capable. They're not actually installing the batteries yet, but they anticipate installing the batteries to help with the demands and those things. But they're going to, based on usage data, they'll determine which ones are going to get the batteries. But they are thinking ahead and say, look, we don't know. It's easier to install the infrastructure to support batteries now when we're doing it, not versus come back and do it later. So that I thought was very smart.
So I think Don asked more questions, especially more good questions, than anyone else in the room. I remember when he used to do this at work. Yeah. He was always the guy that was never afraid to stand up and ask the hard questions. He just got it to do it. So but he asked him a little bit about their plans and what real utilization data they had, and you want to just clarify what that question was and what his answer was?
Sure. Basically they have 4 phases of investment cycles, and they're right at the towards the end of the first cycle, which started January 2017 and it goes through June 30th 2019. I think that was right. The point is they've done this planning where they've put dots on the map where they would want to put chargers in across the country along the interstate highways. It's not in all 50 states, but it's certainly in as Marianne had said, the supercharger map and this Electrify America map are very synergistic. In other words, there's similar guidelines, but the key thing here is, and he came back to this several times and stressed it, is that they are for profit, that they are only interested in putting in chargers where they're going to get used. They have no interest whatsoever in putting in DC fast chargers to facilitate travel in all areas. In other words, they are 100% comfortable with the fact that you can't drive across Alabama, Montana, or wherever on their network. They don't care. Have no plans to address it. They said it could be addressed in the next cycles, but right now they're for profit. They're in business to put chargers that's going to get utilized. Now, the question I asked him is, well, you've done all this. All these chargers are supposed to be in place by June 30th of 2019. So they're going from basically 0 in January of 2017 to like, oh, I don't know, what was it, 150 locations in 2.5 years, which is wonderful. But they don't have any usage data yet, and yet so I questioned some of that, and that was my thing, and he said absolutely correct. We have no idea what the usage of these necessarily of these things are going to be, and at this point revisiting those things might happen in later investment cycles. There's cycle 2, 3, and 4.
He did say that the data of utilization would be publicly available and published as it's collected.
Right. And he said that because they are under consent decree, so they are very open. And again, I don't have any problems with the fact that he said, we have no interest in putting in chargers in locations that aren't going to be highly utilized. In fact, they have very specific criteria. He did not deep dive into it, but he had very specific criteria in which census tracts are used, demographics are used, all these types of things that you would use if you were starting up a fast charging company. So the key thing here is obviously in the next 2 years from now to, let's say, 2021, because everybody is coming out with electric cars in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So by the end of 2021, they should at least start seeing some valid utilization, and it could be several lean years. I mean, the next couple of years could be very lean, because right now Teslas are the ones that are selling. In other words, the majority of cars on the road that are electric are Teslas,
especially with the Model 3.
Right, and the Teslas all have the supercharger, so they don't expect a lot of Tesla people to use their fast chargers. They could if they buy the CHAdeMO adapter, but that's only 50 kilowatts, so they just don't. They're doing this, as Marianne said, for the cars that are coming out, the I-Pace, the Mission E, and things like that. So I want to be very clear. I am positive. I still feel that they missed an opportunity. They missed the opportunity to make this more punitive, more like a fine, because I've said that before. I would, this is supposed to be a fine, but it almost looks like a government
business opportunity.
Yeah, a government endorsement of their business case. And he was adamant that they didn't have no government endorsement. But I guess my point is that they do have some oversight by the EPA and things, and they have to do things out in the public. So at least they are have to expose some of their business plans that somebody else wouldn't have to do.
Right. Well, you were trying to say that it was a little bit of an unfair competitive advantage, like to say ChargePoint and Electrify America. ChargePoint, Don said in the meeting today, would love to go in some of these locations where Electrify America is going, but now Electrify America is scooping up those what they think are high utilization, high demand areas. But Don was also concerned too, like we have an internet digital divide now with people, rural places that aren't as lucrative to put a fast charger or even a level 2 charger in. They're still not going to have that infrastructure. And then we've got lots in the highly utilized areas. So Don was just saying he wished somebody was going to prevent this rural area, sinking farther away and the metro areas being brought up.
I wish that I'm not faulting Electrify America, Volkswagen. I mean, they negotiated the best deal for their purposes. I fault the government, the Department of Justice and the EPA for letting them do this. They could have at least said, well, 50% of your chargers have to be in areas that are not highly utilized, that aren't going to get a fast charger in 10 years unless you do it and basically stick it out there. He did say, and I do think this was good, of course, California, the negotiators there are much better, and they have a green cities green city initiative where Electrify America has to provide zero emission transportation options in low income areas.
And he talked about Sacramento and
specifically they're starting in Sacramento with $44 million. They're going to do ride sharing in low income areas. In other words, that's similar to my concept of rural areas are getting left out of Electrify America. California, which had better negotiators, basically are making Electrify America put extra effort into.
It's not rural, but it is low income at least.
Well, hey, I would accept low income. I mean, don't have to put it out in Calypso Springs down here. You could put it in Garner, or some other place. There's lots of low income places. But again, I want to say I am glad that they're doing something. Nobody's going to make money on fast chargers in the next few years. This is not you may be in it for profit, but don't expect a profit for probably 5 years at the minimum. I'm not saying that a few chargers aren't going to be profitable, but one thing that I'd like to point out that is very interesting, as I said, they're going from 0 to like 150, and they're only spending no more than $500 million. In other words, this first cycle where they're installing this entire fast charging network in California and the other states, all of that plus the level 2 chargers and all of that is only $500 million. It's only cost them $500 million, and it's only taking 2.5 years. So they went from 0 to basically covering the country for, I thought, a very modest amount of money, $500 million, and did it in 2.5 years. Of course, Tesla did all this privately funded, but it just goes to show you that the other car makers, this whole problem of fast charging never really was a problem. If one company with $500 million solved the problem. And oh, by the way, that's supposed to be, that money is there to keep it operating for 10 years. They said, no, we're going to support, maintain. If the charger goes bad in 2 years, we'll replace it. They've got this thing scheduled out basically for 10 years. Now, I'm sure that does not include the cost of electricity, because they're expecting to charge fees to cover that. But the actual investment to put the chargers in everywhere and do all this work was only $500 million. What's $500 million?
Another interesting thing that he said is that they realize that most families do not drive outside of their 150-mile range around their house more than 4 times a year. And even us with the Tesla, really, we didn't probably do that more than 6 times in the last year. So the, you know, travel across America thing, it's a great concept. Everyone wants to be able to do it, and they want to be able to do it when they want to do it and fast, but they don't do it very often. Right. Even he said that today. So I think the business, he said that, you know, when businesses are involved in having the availability for folks to charge while they work, that there's like a 6% adoption rate of EVs. I mean, it really helps right. with the EV adoption rate. So it's really gets a lot of press when we have this network that we can show on a map. But what really helps people drive their car day to day is the workplace and maybe the multifamily dwelling chargers, because, you know, we're very fortunate. I think folks don't know, or folks that don't have an EV don't realize, is that you're really charging at home. Right. You're charging at home. So if you happen to live in a multifamily dwelling, then you may not be able to, even if you know about EVs and you want EVs, it might not be easy for you to charge at your apartment complex. So again, we've put all this emphasis into the impressive countrywide map, but maybe more of the multifamily dwellings and workplace is really what would help raise the adoption. They put up an interesting slide. Let me get it in front of me. Of the top reasons why people don't get an EV, and I don't know who actually built this chart, but the number one thing was location and availability of charging stations. That was over 50%. Normal distance that can be traveled on a full charge was 46%. Recharging time at 31%, and cost of battery replacement at 21%. That those were the 4 top things in their research that kept people from doing EV adoption. And right. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the Marianne said it. Yeah, those 4 reasons out of the top 12, those were the 4. The number 1, number 3, number 6, and number 12 reasons. But the key thing is they have done research that asked people, and we're not talking about people who knew about EVs, just your normal driver. They asked people if they know about new cars, and 100% of the people knew about the concept of buying a new car. Okay, and then they asked them like, what about a zero emission vehicle car, and that dropped down to like 22% of the people knew what a zero emission car was. So what they're trying, what the charts were clearly trying to indicate, is that the vast majority of people walking around haven't even began to comprehend electric cars. They may have heard of them, very small, but they know, they know nothing about them. And part of the money from this settlement is to increase education, to allow people to understand what a zero emission car. In fact, he said they're starting with radio ads in the Raleigh area this summer. So, we might start hearing radio ads, and he said there will be TV ads. He said they're brand generic,
but they feature a volt. But
he said they're probably going to be having bolts and volts on there initially. But I agree with what Marianne just said. This is proving that nobody, unless you own an electric vehicle, even if you're buying an electric vehicle right now, you probably haven't realized it, that the fast charging network really isn't used. The level 2, even if you're buying he also said they were only interested in long range, more than 200 miles. They're not trying to solve the charging problem for 80-mile electric cars. He said there's just not not in their scopes. They want everything they do assumes approximately 200 miles or better range on a car. But the thing is, people who don't know, even when they buy their electric car, a lot of them just don't get it, that you don't use the superchargers every day. You don't go somewhere to charge. You don't even charge at work. You charge at home. And so I totally think that it's interesting that the multifamily dwelling approach is probably what they really need. It's nice that they're doing the fast chargers so that people will buy new cars, so that if they want to drive to California, they can.
It checks off a box.
It checks off a box.
Whether it's a necessity or not is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I agree. This is the emotional versus the reality. The emotion is, oh, I want to drive my car to California. Well, how many times a year do you go to California? He says, oh, I don't go to California. I didn't go to California this year. Well, did you? When was the last time you went to California? Oh, I've never been to California. So why are you wanting to drive your car to California when you've never been there? Well, I just might want to do it someday. And so we're going through all these gymnastics just so somebody can do it someday. And you know, I think it's great. I love the fact that we can drive our Tesla to California. I don't have any plans to drive it to California anytime soon, but I can do it if I want to.
But maybe up to Cape Girardeau to see Jack.
Right. But you did good. I'm good.
Johnny and I stopped in at Walmart and we've picked up some cupcakes to take over the Tesla to celebrate Ruby's birthday. I was just a couple seconds late in watching them bring the Model S down off the car hauler. So this is the thing, you come to the service center and you get to see a new Roadster every time. Wow, how many Roadsters are there in Raleigh? Don says apparently quite a few. This one has carbon fiber up by the soft roof. Way cool. Hey, buddy. All right, it's the service center drive-by. Not seeing a lot of 3s here today, though. Lots of S's. Okay, there's a couple 3s. But several new X's and S's. Over here at TVP Auto Customizations, they've got a McLaren out front. It's pretty cool. Johnny's not seen one of these before. I'm not sure I've seen one before. So they were super busy over at the service area. So we dropped off the cupcakes and didn't hang. We're over here at the sales office now. Patriotism today at Tesla.
That looks like Founder's Red almost. Looks different.
Go catch up with Mr. Don.
But you got the goodies.
You got the cupcakes, bud. So Don let Ruby park herself over here.
Hey, how are y'all today?
Pretty good. I told you I was going to bring the other car in to have it inspected.
I need all the help I can get. I just had my lunch and I need to be able to afford lunch tomorrow.
I understand. I understand.
Appreciated it. She recording me.
I am,
Yeah, she-
but not to be mean.
It's nice. It's
No,
nice to be popular.
She's a blogger. She does YouTube.
This is our first car inspection for Ruby,
Yeah.
Okay.
and we've had her exactly a year today.
Okay.
And so we thought we were interested to see how the inspection process would go for our electric vehicle. So
everything will be okay. Is it all electric, no
Yeah.
gas
No-
involved?
no
okay,
gas.
so that means it'll be a safety inspection.
Safety check, that's right.
No emission.
No emission.
So I tell you what, just leave it here.
Yeah.
Is it got a key fob?
Yeah.
Or a key?
Yeah. No key fob.
Leave me the key fob there.
All right.
Registration's
Yeah.
out. Y'all
All right.
hop out. I'm gonna hop in.
All
and,
right.
we'll knock it right out.
all right. So
Sounds
Don's
good.
giving him just a basic overview of, you know, car operations. It's different that you put your foot on the brake and the door closes. It's different you press the end of the stalk to go into park. Obviously don't floor it. You know, the typical. It should be fun. I don't want to make him too nervous recording him, but you know, he seemed to have a good attitude about it. Yep, the horn works. Yeah, it's just parking. Parking. Okay. You can force the high beams, but know about. It doesn't know about Ruby? No.
Oh boy. Hey, but there's, look at their option.
Oh, other. There we go.
Other? Or we're other?
The make is a what?
Model X.
Tesla Model X.
DEL, Model X.
So TEL,
Tesla is the manufacturer.
SLA,
Yep.
Model X.
Model X.
You know what? Like the electric
100 kilowatt.
100 kilowatt.
Kilowatt. KW. Yeah.
Well, I hope you know it's a good thing we entrusted our confidence to come to you.
Well,
Tesla won't inspect it for us. They're not licensed.
I've got a few customers that bring some pretty interesting stuff. I've got some Audis with the motor.
Oh
in
yeah.
The bag.
Oh yeah.
You know, a couple of things like that. I've got a couple of Rolls Royces. That
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, I mean, serious. Don said you had a really nice place, and we could trust you with her. So,
I told him this place is spotless. That's right.
well, we'll make sure to tell other Tesla owners we had a good experience here. I bet people would drive a little bit down here if they felt their car would be taken good care of. So we'll definitely let them know.
Tesla people are sort of protective of their cars.
We passed.
North Carolina inspection.
Yeah, very thorough safety inspection.
Thank you a second.
Yeah, just a second. He did great. He's a good sport about me filming him. I appreciate it. So that was the Citgo Quick Lube at 908 Wake Chapel Road, Fuquay. It's right when you come in 55 into town. You turn right onto Wake Chapel. Robert is the owner, and he was the one that inspected our car. Really good service. So if you're in the area, new Tesla, a little leery about where to take it, you can take it to Robert.
And make sure he tell you.
We sent you.
We sent you. That's right.
Yeah, Don takes some of our ICE cars over there for inspections, and maybe if he needed an oil change, we would do that too. But anyways, a good guy, a nice clean place, really careful with the car, which we obviously were appreciative of. So obviously they did not have to do the emissions part of the normal North Carolina state inspection because there's no emissions. And it was $13.60 for the safety inspection. That's a state regulated fee. So I told Don I was gonna crack the whip. I need my yearly numbers. We're getting down to the final, hours before I gotta make the video.
Yep, so a year ago at 3 o'clock in the afternoons when we picked Ruby up on June 14th, we got her home that night of June 14th, so we plugged her in. So last night was June 13th. So all the data on this meter, and you have to understand it has rolled over. It went up to 9,999 kilowatt hours, and then it started counting in hex. It went to A000,
okay,
B000, and C00. All right, so it's now at C050. So that's 12,050 kilowatt hours, or said it differently, 12.05 megawatt hours of electricity. Now,
gulp.
Well, there's 12 months. This has been exactly 12 months. So we're using to charge Ruby on average 1 megawatt per month, or 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. Okay, got that?
Yep.
So now I'm going to reset it. Okay.
All right.
So here we go.
It has a little tiny button. He's using the pencil tip to push it.
You push the little button down and just hold it, and then it starts flashing. And when it flashes, you just press the button, and it's clear.
And so we're reset for year 2.
Yep, so now we're starting year 2. Tonight's charge will be the first night of year 2.
And you're going to give us an average of
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta go plug the numbers.
Crunch some numbers. Yeah, go crunch, Donnie.
That's fine.
So I didn't take a lot of video when we visited Tesla today because I was shy and I also don't want to get any of the Tesla employees on camera that make them uncomfortable or worried. So we had fun up there, but there wasn't a lot to video. I'm headed to Taekwondo with Johnny. He'll be out here in just a second. Don is going to go run, but he's also in the house number crunching things like you know, all the electricity we used, what that cost us, how many miles we traveled, what that would have cost us in gas versus how many software updates we put on this year. Just a lot of stuff like that. I am working on a slideshow of the year. Yeah, I could be editing for a long time tonight. I had a good nap though, so hopefully a little bit of coffee and I'll be good to go. Hey, bud. Hey, Mom. Well, our mileage today was 87 miles, and our mileage for a year of driving was 26,851.